just introducing yourself and your role.
Okay. My name's ANTONIA DOWNEY. I'm in-house lawyer at RICOCHET. My actual title is Legal and Business Affairs Executive. I cover, which means that I cover all compliance aspects of our programmes, all production legals relating to around access, location agreements, contributory agreements, and then the compliance, which is Ofcom regulations and general legal issues surrounding programmes.
Can I ask, for most people, they'd say they don't. I think a lot of people don't know what compliance actually means. What is the definition of compliance? What does it mean in real terms for you?
It's basically making sure that the programme complies with the law and with Ofcom. So the overriding set of regulations that we have to adhere to is called the Ofcom Broadcasting Code, and that has lots of different rules and regulations covering programme content and to do with privacy and undue prominence and commercial references and protection of under 18s. I mean, there's an awful lot. It covers everything. So as well as making sure that the programme is legally compliant, i.e. with the law, for example defamation, things like that, we also have to make sure that it fully complies with the Ofcom Broadcasting Code.
Should we talk specifically about Cowboy Builders, the old Cowboy Builders for Channel 5, the primetime show, obviously with the titled Cowboy Builders starting at a point of assuming it's saying there are dodgy builders,
yes,
and featuring builders. What some of the main legal issues are or were with the old Cowboy Builders?
Right. Well, we had to approach the programme from the two aspects that I've just mentioned: the legal, so the law, and also the regulatory, which is the Ofcom. So in terms of the law, we are obviously at risk because the whole series is called Cowboy Builders. You're at risk of defamation, which means because we're basically criticising a tradesman and potentially could put them out of business because we're labelling them as a cowboy builder. So for the defamation purposes, we have to be, the law of defamation says that the onus is on us to be able to prove that the allegation that we're making is true. It's not on the cowboy builder to prove that it's not true. So the burden of proof is on us. So we have to make sure that everything is factually accurate in the programme. So every allegation we make against the cowboy builder in the programme has to be backed up with third-party documentation, like a survey or building control report, or we normally try and get an independent expert, basically, not even just our builder. So the factual accuracy of the allegations we're making is absolutely key. And then we just need to make sure that that the contributors aren't lying, that there's no agenda that they've got. We have to be fair to the builder, so it has to be accurate and it has to be fair. Then if we get a complaint, then we are able to prove then that it's true. We've never actually been sued for defamation, but what we have had is we've had a lot of builders have made a complaint to Ofcom, which is a bit that I'll come to. Because under Ofcom, then if they got a decision awarded in their favour, then they were going to go back to a law firm and get on a no-win, no-fee and then sue us for defamation. But luckily, we won all of our Ofcoms, so we had a lot of builders making complaints to Ofcom about us, but we were able to convince Ofcom at every occasion that we had done everything that we were supposed to do. So on the Ofcom side of things, the regulatory side of things, Ofcom sets out in the code that where you're going to make an allegation against a third party that's not contributed to your programme, you have to give them what's called a right to reply. So we have to set out in writing all of the allegations that we're making against the builder in the programme, and we have to invite them to, we need to set out the allegations, and we're basically trying to get their response. You don't have to get their response on interview or in writing, but because of Cowboy Builders, we wanted to be able to doorstep them, which is another thing that's governed by Ofcom. We wanted them to turn down our request for an interview. So we either wanted to interview them or turn down the request for the interview, at which point if they turned down more than one request for an interview, then we were able to doorstep them, which is basically Dom running down the road after them to get their response. So that's not legal, that's all governed by the Ofcom code.
Okay, so just to be clear then, can you just be really clear for me? So so when you are actually wanting to confront somebody, you can confront them if you've invited them for an interview and they've said no twice. Can you just be clear?
Well, that's kind of, we had to work with Channel 5 to so again, with my role, I work very closely with all the broadcaster lawyers and legal teams. And what the Ofcom code actually says is if the person that you're seeking the response to allegations from has turned down requests for an interview, I think it's a plural. So we worked, Channel 5 decided very early on, right in the very first series, that they would be happy to argue with Ofcom that requests could be 2. So we didn't have to do any more than 2. So we set up a process, and it was very much a process because we were churning these out on a sort of daily basis, that we would write one letter and then we give them 5 days or 7 days to respond, and then we'd send a second letter and another 7 days to respond, and then so that it would work within the schedule, then we knew what date, if we'd had no response, we knew what date to schedule in Dom to do his confront, his doorstep, or to then, if they did respond, then to set up the interview with Dom. What we didn't want, which did happen sometimes if they wrote really, really long letters, got a lawyer involved, wrote reams of letters back. So, but we are legally obliged or Ofcom obliged to put in their response to the programme. So when they sent very, very long wordy letters back, we'd always try and find something that they hadn't answered and then just keep sort of pushing away at that little bit so that we then could either get them to come in and talk to us, or that Dom would still have the opportunity to doorstep.
It's quite complex to and from, isn't it? So there's a whole legal requirement and the editorial story for filming and fitting the schedule. How tricky a type was it?
It was really tricky, and we did actually, it was really tricky because Ofcom did at one point say that they felt they were a bit concerned that we managed to get a doorstep. We managed to have the justification for a doorstep in pretty much every single episode, and there was a feeling that that maybe we and Channel 5 together were not being fair, but they did not an investigation, but they did look at us, and they were really happy. They were fine. We actually had a meeting with them, and they were very happy. So we were able to show without any doubt that we had been following the correct procedure at every step of the way. Because I mean, the difference in the builders' responses to these letters was quite extraordinary. You know, sometimes they would get a top lawyer involved, but we would get reams and reams and get bogged down in this intense legal correspondence, and other times we would just get absolutely nothing, and then we just doorstep them and they go nothing to say. There wasn't, it was kind of, we just went really across the board, and but although I was the one that had to sort of concentrate on making sure we got the legal and the compliance right, I was always working really closely with the editorial team to try and make it work editorially, if at all possible, but then the compliance had to rule in that respect, because we have to make sure, because we were Ofcom on every single series, so on every single series we had at least one complaint was made to Ofcom.
Wow, so I was going to pause it.